Welcome once again, my friends, and thank you for stopping by to listen to an old storyteller. Today we have a story from England, and the title of this story is The Pied Piper. Newtown, or Franceville, as 'twas called of old, is a sleepy little town, as you all may know, upon the Solent shore. Sleepy as it is now, it was once noisy enough, and what made the noise was rats. The place was so infested with them as to be scarce worth living in. There wasn't a barn or a corn-rick, a storeroom or a cupboard, but they ate their way into it. Not a cheese but they gnawed it hollow, not a sugar puncheon but they cleared out. Why, the very mead and beer in the barrels were not safe for them.
They'd gnaw a hole in the top of the tune,
and down would go one Master Rat's tail, and when he brought it up round, would crowd all the friends and cousins, and each would have a suck at the tail. Had they stopped here, it might have been borne. But the squeaking and the shrieking, the hurrying and the scurrying, so that you could neither hear yourself speak nor get a wink of honest sleep the livelong night. Not to mention that Mamma must needs sit up and keep watch and ward over the baby's cradle, or they'd have been a big ugly rat running across the little fellow's face and doing who knows what mischief. Why didn't the good people of the town have cats? Well, they did, and there was a fair stand-up fight.
But in the end, the rats were too many,
and the pussies were regularly driven from the field. Poison, I hear you say? Why, they poisoned so many that it fairly bred a plague. Rat-catchers? Why, there wasn't a rat-catcher from John o'Groat's house to the land's end that hadn't tried his luck. But do what they might, cats or poisons, terrier or traps, there seemed to be more rats than ever, and every day a fresh rat was cocking his tail or pricking his whiskers. The mayor and the town council were at their wits' end. As they were sitting one day in the town hall, racking their poor brains and bewailing their hard fate, who should run in but the town beadle. "Please, your honour," says he, "here's a queer fellow come to town. I don't rightly know what to make of him." "Show him in," said the mayor, and in he stepped. A queer fellow, truly, for there wasn't a colour of the rainbow that you might find it in some corner of his dress, and he was tall and thin, and had keen, piercing eyes. "I'm called the Pied Piper," he began, "and pray what might you be willing to pay me if I rid you of every single rat in Frenchtown?" Well, much as they feared the rats, they feared parting with their money more, and fain would they have higgled and haggled, but the piper was not a man to stand nonsense, and the upshot was that £50 was promised to him, and it meant a lot of money in those old days. As soon as not a rat was left to squeak or scurry in Franceville. Out of the hole stepped the piper, and as he stepped he laid his pipe to his lips, and a shrill, keen tune sounded through street and house. And as each note pierced the air, you might have seen a strange sight. Out of every hole the rats came tumbling. There were none too old and none too young, none too big and none too little to crowd at the piper's heels, and with eager feet and up-turned noses to patter after him as he paced the streets. Nor was the piper unmindful of the little toddling ones. For every 50 yards he'd stop and give an extra flourish on his pipe, just to give them time to keep up with the older and stronger of the band. Up Silver Street he went, down Gold Street, and at the end of Gold Street is the harbour and the broad Solent beyond. And as he paced along, slowly and gravely, the townsfolk flocked to door and window, and many a blessing they called down upon his head. As for getting near him, there were too many rats.
And now that he was at the water's edge, he stepped into a boat, and not a rat.
And he shoved off into deep water, piping and shrilling all the while. But followed him, flashing, paddling, and wagging their tails with delight. On and on he played and played until the tide went down, and every master rat sank deeper and deeper into the slimy ooze of the harbour, until every mother's son of them was dead and smothered. The tide rose again, and the piper stepped on shore, but never a rat followed. You may fancy the townfolk had been throwing up their caps and hurrahing, and stopping up rat-holes, and setting the church bells a-ringing. But when the piper stepped ashore, and not so much as a single squeak was to be heard, The mayor and the council and the townsfolk generally began to hum and to ha and to shake their heads. For the town money chest had been sadly emptied of late, and where was the £50 to come from? Such an easy job, too. Just getting into a boat and playing a pipe? Why, the mayor himself could have done that if only he'd had thought of it. So he hummed and hawed, and at last, "Come, my good man," said he, "you see what poor folk we are. How can we manage to pay you £50? Will you not take 20? When all is said and done, 'twill be good pay for the trouble you've taken." £50 was what I bargained for, said the piper shortly, and if I were you, I'd pay it quickly, for I can pipe many kinds of tunes, as folk sometimes find to their cost. "Would you threaten us, you strolling vagabond?" shrieked the mayor, and at the same time he winked to the council. "The rats are all dead and drowned," muttered he, "and so you may do your worst, my good man." And with that he turned short upon his heel. "Very well," said the piper, and he smiled a quiet smile, and with that he laid his pipe to his lips afresh. But now there came forth no shrill notes, as it were, of scraping and gnawing and squeaking and scurrying, but the tune was joyous and resonant, full of happy laughter and merry play, and as he paced down the streets the elders mocked. But from the schoolroom and playroom, from nursery and workshop, not a child but ran out with eager glee and shout, following gaily at the piper's call. Dancing, laughing, joining hands and tripping feet, the bright throng moved along up Gold Street and down Silver Street, and beyond Silver Street lay the cool green forest full of oaks and widespread beeches. In and out among the oak trees you might catch glimpses of the piper's many-colored coat. You might hear the laughter of the children break and fade and die away, as deeper and deeper into the lone green wood the stranger went, and the children followed. All the while the elders watched and waited. They mocked no longer now, and watch and wait as they might, never did they set their eyes again upon the Pied Piper and his partly-colored coat. Never were their hearts gladdened by the song and dance of the children issuing forth from amongst the ancient oaks of the forest. Thank you once again for listening to this story. If you enjoyed this story, please press that like button. Also, please help an old storyteller out by subscribing to my channel. The next story will be posted in a few days, so until then, may your story continue to be a good one.